Welcome to Education Insights. It's always a pleasure talking with Theo Kerhoulas, the superintendent of Port Huron Schools.
Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you,
Kevin.
as well. Last we spoke, you were preparing a budget, and you didn't know a lot of variables that were going to take place with the federal money and the Department of Education kind of being gutted, and then the state didn't do a budget for you. Talk about your process with your own board and what it took as a local superintendent to get a budget put together.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start. I completely understand it's tough in Lansing. I completely respect our legislators. But man, when they don't get it done on time, there's a trickle down effect, and it really hurts at the local level. Because we had just put a budget out, and really it should have been a few more weeks, and we could talk about what we did with that budget, but it didn't happen that way.
Well, to give the public that's watching, you have to have a budget to your board in June for a July 1 start. It's never made sense to me because the state budget is October 1, but you're doing a budget, so you rely on the Senate and the House and the governor to give you an education budget so that you can put your budget together before July 1. That didn't happen.
No, sir. So we were literally throwing darts at the board as we were trying to make decisions. And one of the, I'm not going to be negative the whole time, but a couple of the negative things that happened, and you remember this. I remember this happened when you were in the chair. You have to hold back on certain things. You can't staff certain things, and the big programs move on. The English teachers, the math teachers, the regular classrooms, that third grade classroom, those are all happening. But all that support that we need, especially in an urban district like Port Huron, all those interventionists and things like that happen to be that our kids really need to. Those you got to put on pause. I know we're just getting our adult ed program staffed appropriately now, and it's November. We're just getting those things done now. So it's quite a trickle down effect on the hassle meter, and it slows us down. But we got there. We got there, and we're big enough. We do a lot of carryover budgeting, and I'm not going to get into the boring numbers, but you can carry over for 1 year some grant dollars, and we for a long time have built that into the budget. We've baked it in. So some of these things like nutrition and safety and things like that, we found ways, even though we didn't know the budget was coming, we funded it anyway, and we let our families know, your kids are still going to get fed. We're going to have school resource officers and things like that. So that put our parents' minds a little more at ease during that transition phase. But it was rough.
So the time you got a state budget, even after the state budget was supposed to be in, you got your education budget, say 4 months late. How did it turn out on your enrollment? And then from a funding standpoint per student, how did that all kind of flesh out when it was all said and done?
Yeah, so a couple of three goods and a bad. How's that, Kevin?
That sounds good.
Well, three goods and a
bad first. And
no, let's end with the bad. I like to be positive, So the first thing is the amount of money that was allocated, and we got an increase, and that's great. I really thank our legislature and the governor for figuring out a way to make that happen. So we didn't get any increase last year, and this year we had $400 more a student. So that was great, right? That's a step in the right direction. When you kind of put inflation and all those things in, I don't know if it's a huge, increase. And as you know, one of the biggest expenses in education is retirement, right? We're paying for you, buddy.
As you should.
As we should, right? But yeah, in a business, as you know, in a business that's 90% personnel, right? Like most of what we spend is on people. Retirement's a big factor. Yeah. And when retirement continually and healthcare continually, some of those $400 is great. We thank them for that, but it doesn't equate to as much as you would hope. But it was an increase, and that's great. We got a big increase in dollars for at-risk children, and that is so important in Port Huron, right? We're an urban district, lots of poverty, lots of kids from traditionally marginalized communities, and we having that increase and a good one, a significant, good hike. I really thank the legislature and the governor for doing that. And then, as you know, it just comes down to count. How many kids. We budget. We're a declining enrollment district, so for many years we were losing total the actual kids weren't leaving, but birth rates. We were losing about 250 kids a year throughout the and that's tough when you lose 250 kids a year. In 4 years, that's 1,000 kids. That's closing buildings, and we've done that. We've closed elementaries and middles. This year, we had budgeted that we would be down 120 students. And the audited numbers aren't in, but I think the number is going to be down. We're down 52 students. So that's the smallest loss in 20 years at Port Huron Schools. So that's a good thing. You're starting to level out. And I also equate it to our teachers in the classroom and the work we're doing. Our teachers, our families trust us. We love our kids back and forth, and so that's a really good number, a good metric to go on when you think you're going to lose 120 and you lose less than 60. That's a win.
Yeah, exactly. You're 70 to the good. Birth rate, as people at home are watching this, is a worldwide thing. We're Elon Musk, and looking at sometimes what he talks about as far as numbers, it may be the single most incredible stat right now is that every country on the planet practically is losing. The numbers are dropping, more deaths than births, and that's simply birth rate used to be, we talk about the 50s and 60s being kind of the golden time of America when parents were having 3, 4, 5, 6,
Right.
7 children. Both my mother and father's families were 7 and 8 children. Now it's down below 2 children per household. So if you're down in some countries are 1.1 or 1.2, that's going to be problematic for declining enrollment for education all over the planet.
And the other factor, and it's not a large factor, but it still should be said, is there's educational choice out there, and there's options for families out there. There's charter schools, they're homeschool, there's things like that, and those all equate into it. So for us to hold, mid 50s in a drop is really a testament to my team. The teachers, the buildings. I'm really proud of that metric. We've kind of turned it around from losing 200 a year to I don't want to lose any. I want to go the other direction, but to cut away at that is really important.
So I know a process that most superintendents go through then is an amended budget, usually kind of in the middle of the year. A lot of districts do it in January, so I know you're probably
ours will be in
gearing up.
December.
It'll be December. So you've then taken all those firm numbers that you have then, enrollment from the fall, which is, it becomes official in mid-October, and as you said, it gets audited and make sure it's exactly what you say it is, because that's how your funding then is determined from the state level, throughout the year. So you've got that number, you've got your state funding number, so now you can put together, take to your board a kind of a, here, this is amended from what we brought to you in June with all the numbers being exact, right? So.
And I meet with the kids at every building, and I ask this question to the elementary kids. It's fun. I say, there's 18 school buildings, and how much do you think it costs to run the district in this big place? All to pay all your principal, who's usually in the room, all your teachers, to the lights, how much do you think it costs for the whole district? And the kids will put their hands up and they'll 5,000, and I'll be like, oh, a little bit higher, $1 million higher. 5 million? They're going crazy. So, Port Huron Schools is a large district. I think it's the 25th largest in the state. It's $120 million a year organization. It's a very big place with a lot of moving parts. But when I tell them that number, their eyes light up.
Well, you would be in the top 2 or 3% of businesses in the
Yes.
U.S. with a budget of $120 million.
I think we're the 3rd largest employer in St. Clair County. I think the hospital and one of the manufacturers are larger, but I think we're the 3rd largest. It's a big place, 900 staff, and it's a big place, but we're
So
proud
do you
of it.
feel now you've finally, as you're kind of putting the bow, if you will, using Christmas terminology here, but put a bow on your amended budget in December, now you've got the finances all, you feel good about the remainder of the school year because you're almost halfway through the fiscal year now.
Yeah, we're I'm not going to say feel good because, and I'll tell you in a sec, but we're always feeling good because we have a large fund equity. We've worked really hard. I think maybe, and I give hats off to one of my predecessors, Ron Willeen. He had some tough budgeting years back then, and the district was near a 4% fund equity, which is on the radar at the state, to come in and bring a team in to kind of take over the finances of the district. And there were really tough decisions, and I know it wasn't just Ron, his team and our workforces team. They had to come together and make some really tough decisions, and those happened to pan out. So I give a lot of credit to those tough decisions back then. Now we're at 27% fund equity. So from 15, 20 years ago to 27 now, we're in a much more comfortable position to do some things that are all directed at kids. So that's great news. But I still never feel comfortable until third quarter, because in a district like mine, there's so much grant funding. We have to monitor that so closely and how we spend those dollars. So it's that
you're limited on what you can spend them on too.
Right.
That's the key.
Which might be a little different than when you and I work together. Is I may have budgeted for 4 social workers, and I've got them, and that's a really great example, and I can't find them. So in my budget, I've got money to pay for those social workers, but they're just not out there, right? We trying to find teachers for positions. We've done a really good job this year at staffing, and we've got all of our teaching positions filled, and even some of those support positions that we couldn't fill for a long time, or all of our custodian spots are full, and those important things like that, bus drivers, stuff like that. So we're in a good position. During COVID, it was really tough to staff our buildings safely. So we had to close 3 or 4 times during COVID, and one of those closures was not because of COVID or the medical part of COVID, but we couldn't safely staff our buildings. We didn't have the staff to do it. Not only were they not out there to be employed, but with the regulations about quarantining and things like that, we just couldn't. And that was one of the closures, was just that, amazingly enough. But we did push off the bad things. So I'll bring out that one tough thing we're struggling with right now. So there's a grant called 31AA, and that's a safety grant, and it's used for now, and it can be used in the future for school resource officers, counselors, student mental health and safety, and like even fencing and cameras and all those things we use to keep kids safe. So it was cut a couple of years ago and brought back incrementally. But this year there was $300 million for statewide for 31AA, and that's great. And in Port Huron, that would be about $140 a kid, so a little bit over $1 million. Again, great, because we've got school resource officers, 5 of them, counselors, things like that. That money gets eaten up quick. Well, we didn't see that grant until that late October date, so that was tough. Again, we had carryover, so we still employed everybody.
So how many people do you employ? Do you hire them in the fall?
Right.
All those decisions.
October, I'm running school. Like we're in full steam ahead. So the budget's passed. We get it, and we get a tough opt-in clause to that money, that the district has to make a decision, the board actually, that if they opt in and take that money, they have to agree if there was a tragedy that has to give up their client privilege with their attorneys to during an investigation. And lawyers hate that, right? To give up attorney privilege, and that's a tough one. So we had to have lots of conversations around that. Our board just a few nights ago voted to accept that. Tough one, like with a tough look on their face. They said, "Yeah, we'll do this," because first, they believe in transparency. I do too, but also kids' safety is more important than these kinds of things. And God forbid anything was ever to happen. But to put some of those loopholes on some of those dollars is tough, especially that late in the game. As you know, if the budget was in June, the lawyers figure that stuff out, and by the time it gets to September, those kinds of things, they've got better language in laws like that. But this year it came right down to the wire, and it's tough. We're still, I think there's lawsuits against that right now and things like that. We're just trying to run school and do it safely, and so that's my one negative with the budget is that loophole, that 31.
All right, we got that out of the way.
Good, thank you.
All right, so when we
feel
come
better.
back, we'll come back after the break, and we'll talk about all the great things happening in the district, and that'll be a great way to finish the program today with you. Now that we got the one.
Sounds good,
thing
Kevin.
we got the budget out of the way too, so no more talking about money. We'll come back with Theo Kerhoulas, the superintendent of Port Huron Schools, in just a moment.
At Adair Supply, we're proud to serve our hometown with quality lumber, reclaimed treasures, and service you can count on. Whether you're building new or restoring old, you'll find what you need right here. Adair Supply, your small town source for new and reclaimed materials, open all winter on St. Clair Highway.
Semco Energy Gas Company is dedicated to you with a focus on customer service and fuel today for a sustainable tomorrow. Semco Energy works hard to make your time with family and friends warm and cozy. Semco Energy Gas Company. Natural gas works for Michigan.
Welcome back to Education Insights. Always a pleasure to talk to Theo Kerhoulas, the superintendent of Port Huron Schools. We got the budget out of the way, got all that money taken care of. So, but it is good to kind of for a minute get inside your life on trying to do the best thing for this district, how to manage the district's resources, and it looks like that's just in a beautiful, stable position right now. So let's get on then with the running of everyday schools and all the great things happening in your school district. And I'll kind of leave the floor open to you to kind of direct what you'd like to talk about on what's happening great with Port Huron Schools. I know my twin granddaughters who are in your beautiful Edison School are reaping the benefits of great teachers and great things happening in your district. So
well, and I think you sent me a picture. They were playing basketball in our Saturday league, right?
Absolutely.
That's always fun to see the little ones with the basketballs.
It's great to go back to my stomping grounds at Port Huron Northern and see my 7-year-old twins, grandchildren playing right on up and down the Port Huron Northern
tomahawk
gym.
dunking.
They're
taking after their granddad.
Their grandfather's genes, high above the rim, Theo. So.
I've played basketball with you, Kevin.
You know better than
so
that.
I know. For the audience, we used to play what we called old man basketball in the mornings, and that was maybe it should have been called slow man basketball.
No, we could have made it half court. That'd have been a lot better for me.
Oh, that's funny. So I just finished, actually, a thing I call Voice to answer your question about the buildings. So I go out to the to each school, right? And I meet in the morning. I usually bring muffins for the staff. They don't have to come, but if they want to come, and I just ask them one question: what's going well, and how can we improve? And then they bring in a group of students, and I ask them the same question. And it's the highlight of my year, talking to the. I love talking to the staff too, but talking to the kids is just so fun, and to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly about what's going on. So I can tell you, our buildings are rocking, and the best thing I always hear, and I heard it this year as well, is the teachers love the kids, and the kids love their teachers, right? All the other budget minutia, that doesn't matter. It's that teacher-kid relationship that's there is just so essential to our success, and it's happening loud and clear in our buildings. And we heard great suggestions and great positives about what's going on. When you ask the kids, especially the elementaries, what's going great, and how can we improve? The two big things for improvement. What do you think they are? Playground equipment and cafeteria, right? They all want better more French fries, and the blue slide. The blue slide in the 3-5 playground is crooked or something. So we get through all that, but it's also a nice time to have a good family conversation with the staff, because you can't bring 900 people into an auditorium and have a real conversation. So getting down into those a little less formal conversations, you learn a lot and do that. So that's great. I'm able to get out there in the buildings. We've had it's kind of a fun time of year. We had lots of success with our athletic teams, which brings a little stress, as well. So both our high school varsity football teams made the playoffs, right? Which doesn't happen every year, but that's great. And and they were both, high in their division, so they had home field during the playoffs, which is great. But we only have one stadium, right? For me, every Friday night I'm in Memorial Stadium because somebody's at home.
Sounds like Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. But the thing is, it's a grass stadium. We believe in grass. If you ask an orthopedic surgeon, they're going to tell you grass is safer than turf. And so grass stadium's hard to maintain, getting beat up, throughout a season, and then to have 2 home playoff games. It's a good problem to have. And thank God the weather was nice this year. But I'm really proud of our teams, and it's just so cool to go into Memorial Stadium, and you've got Port Huron High or Port Huron Northern or both, and their cheerleaders, their dance teams, their bands. It's just an incredible environment for a high school. I'm jealous of those kids being out there and showing their talents there in Memorial Stadium. It's just such a great venue. And but yeah, this year we had a Saturday playoff game at noon, and it was beautiful out. And here I am going, what is happening here? The sun is down. I was in a t-shirt watching the kids play, and it was just great experience.
I'd actually forgotten about the Port Huron High game, and I'm sitting in Port Huron Northern Gym texting with you, and you're at Memorial Stadium watching the football game.
That's right. You're sending pictures of the granddaughter, and I'm sitting there watching the.
It's a good time in Port Huron schools. There was a day, and not too distant memory, where and then you had COVID thrown in too, where it wasn't the happiest district in the world. And you mentioned the budget being a big part of that, and the fund balance, but it really feels like at some point a corner was turned, and it's become a much happier and much more flourishing school district. I'm sure you feel that from within, especially as you do interviews with the teachers and talk with the staff.
I think you're right, and I'll give you an image. So in my office, I've got a strategy board, and we put we've got 4 segments to how we want to push the district further, and there's 4 different things, but in the middle it says CES, right? And I always go back to that. Culture eats strategy. You can have all the strategy in the world, but if you don't have good culture, then organization can't move forward. And we work really hard at even we just mentioned voice. That's an important piece of culture that everyone in the organization is talking and communicating. When I talk, sometimes you hear when the people are talking about an organization, they talk about a this, and I don't believe in that. It's more of a YMCA. I'll do the dance. Right. It's this way, right? We're all different positions, but it's not a hierarchy. It's maybe my position's over here, and another position is way over here, but I don't see them any different. We all have the same mission, and that's to educate our kids. So it's just kind of a culture eats strategy is a term we use a lot.
You've got the MASA logo on your shirt, so it just brings to mind that there are statewide organizations that support school districts as well, and from a statewide, actually a brand new superintendent of state schools too. How much of that kind of filters down, and the decisions that are made at the state level filters down to what you do as a local superintendent in your school district?
Well, first of all, Glenn is the new Glenn McLeod is the new
and you know
superintendent.
Him well,
I know him well, and if he's listening, we don't get along because he's a Red Wings fan and I'm a Maple Leafs fan, right? So he's a big hockey guy, and I think when we go to these meetings, there aren't a lot of hockey people in there.
You served with Glenn, as I remember. Was he in Middle Cities with you as well? I know you have been on the board.
We went to the Superintendent's Academy together back in the day.
He was at Dearborn Schools, which is obviously one of the most diverse, if not the most diverse school district in the state of Michigan. But getting to know Glenn a little bit, but I know you know him well. So what has he told you, or what kind of looking at from the state of Michigan paradigm, where are we headed as a school district system in Michigan?
I think he's got a really good focus, and his focus is to get out into the districts and serve them. He's a servant leader, right? And I think in that position you have to be. But he wants to serve them at his level. I don't think that guy's going to be in his office in Lansing at all. So I really like his and Michael Rice was a great superintendent as well. I like him a lot, and served at different times. His time maybe needed what he was doing. Glenn's time is
right person for the time.
Yep,
right?
exactly. And even the interim Sue Carnell, she's wonderful too. But Glenn's a shake your hand in your building, what do you need kind of guy, and I think he's the right guy for the job, and I think he starts next month.
Yes, that's what it kind of brought him to mind, and I saw the MASA logo, and
I'm going to get him a Toronto Maple Leafs hat.
I'm sure he'll wear it proudly.
Oh man!
So as you look forward now, we're going into the holidays and coming out. So as the winter comes upon the district, is there more challenges for you, or is that kind of the time where everything goes indoors and it's a little bit colder? But anything change from the district point of view?
Well, first, we love the holidays, but this one's a little bit unique with all we had some scares with the SNAP benefits, right? We have a lot of families in poverty. I was really proud of Port Huron Schools. They really stepped out, and so did other local organizations. Our local Blue Water YMCA really stepped up, and lots of others. I won't even name them. But the culture of we're going to build food pantries in our schools, and a bunch of them have places now where they can come get food. Some of those were in place already, but I know like our backpack program. So this is a program where students who live in poverty know that on Friday there's going to be a backpack waiting for them. The school, it's not the taxpayer dollars. This is students and staff volunteering and finding money to stock these things. A backpack to send home with the kid with some meals for them and maybe even their family over the weekend. Beautiful, right? But I know, like at Port Huron High, during this couple of weeks where the SNAP, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
The numbers went from 40 families to like 88 families in need, and our school and organizations like the Community Foundation and things like that stepped up and made sure that we were able to do that. So I was really proud of those kinds of things around Thanksgiving. That's a really important thing. But to me, from the school point of view, the holidays don't start until there's a good old-fashioned Christmas band concert. I don't know who's first this year. I'll go there. There'll be 5 at all of our secondary schools, but I don't until I hear Jingle Bells, rocking it up there with a jazz band. I'm not in the Christmas spirit yet. So that's coming. I can't wait.
Yeah. You mentioned something a moment ago that I wanted to kind of highlight, which is as a superintendent of schools. We know what the leader of a city is. It's either a city manager or a mayor, depending on the type of foundation they have. And then you have the philanthropy side of things, where you have the Community Foundation of St. Clair County, and then you've got the superintendent of schools. Mm-hmm. And you're in that mix of leadership where partnering with other organizations, and you mentioned that, it just came to mind of how important those partnerships are between the school system, the cities or townships that you serve, and like the Community Foundation, the philanthropy side, when something like need for food exists. So talk about your role and the partnerships and the friendships that you need to have that prepare for those moments in need.
It's really it's a great question. It's really important the people that are in each other's cell phones, and some people think that might be a tough thing, like the good old boys club, right? Or now it's not a good old boys club; it's a good old people club, I guess, because there's
more women than ever before in leadership.
That's great. There should be more. But that idea sometimes is frowned upon. But I can tell you, the people that are in my cell phone and I'm in theirs are essential. Like, for example, we just talked about it. I didn't call the Community Foundation and ask them to donate money to our food pantries. Randy Myers called me and said, "What do you need? I know your families are struggling." I put the quick word out to our principals, "What do you need?" They told me the numbers, and they worked their magic on their end. It's those kinds of things. I could call Mayor Ashford or James Freed right now, and I did actually just a couple of weeks ago, about a corner that might be dangerous to our new playground, and they're working on a solve. And those are things that just, in a big place, those phone calls can make things happen really quickly. Now, the other side of that, as you know, when you were in the chair, when your phone rings at 10 o'clock at night and it's Chief Kerrigan or Chief King, Sheriff King, you answer that, or at 2 a.m, because those are usually not a good thing. But it's things we have to deal with. We've had some tragedies this year. We won't get into them, but those are things where the chief of police calls the superintendent, and because school's happening, and we need to support our kids and families during those things, and those are tough conversations. But that's what that relationship piece with local businesses and emergency responders and things really important. My phone's always on.
Yep, I know it is 24/7, 365.
Yes, sir.
I remember when I was superintendent answering a call from my high school principal, Theo Kerhoulas, and I was on a ship
I remember.
Russia.
I remember you were
Talking to my high school principal, Theo. It's always great to talk to you. You're doing a fantastic job. You're not just a friend, but you're my superintendent now of the district that my grandchildren are going to. So it's great to have you in that position. I'm proud of you. And I wish you the best of holidays and a great start to 2026.
You as well, Kevin. And when you were superintendent, you'd have said exactly what I'm going to tell you. It's not about me. I got a great team.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got a great team.
Absolutely. Great to see you, my friend.
You too, man.
Okay. And that'll wrap up this edition of Education Insights. Thank you for joining us.